It was decided to isolate Cuba from the outside world, not just for a certain period of time, but until the regime falls. As you remember, the regime there is communist, which was supported by the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, then by Venezuela and Iran. But the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics no longer exists, and Russia is not able to compete with the United States right now, especially since they're bogged down with Ukraine, and Venezuela, as you understand, is not in the right condition. So Iran is fighting for its own survival, and Cuba has no one. Well, what will happen with China, of course, we don't know, but still, it seems that there is no one who would come to help. It seems that the Cuban dirty killers and scoundrels will run like rats from a sinking ship. It would be great if they ran to Iran and the Iranian rats ran to Cuba, or all to Moscow, to live in the same house where Bashar Assad is currently staying, Viktor Gennadievich, Nikolai Azarov, Oscar Akiv, right across window to window with Edward Snowden, window to window.
President Donald Trump is considering a full and comprehensive naval blockade against the dictatorship in Cuba using the United States Navy to cut off the Cuban country, the Cuban government from the rest of the world in order to ensure that the government and the disgusting dictatorship in Havana collapse.
That is the program to cleanse our hemisphere and about 2,000 miles around our borders, including Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, as well as Panama with a canal, has entered its third phase. First Panama, then Venezuela, now Cuba. Well, sorry, I forgot one more phase. It's called Greenland. Well, if we consider that in the next 5 years we have a very serious, maybe even a big chance that a war with China might start, and possibly with China's allies, who could that be, Russia? Maybe, yes, so we need to. And to clear all the approaches so that they can't get close, and to strengthen ourselves so much that no one would even start, let's say, seriously think about how could we fight America. Trump takes the idea, the doctrine of Ronald Reagan, seriously. Peace can only exist if we are so strong that no one would even think of attacking us. That's peace through strength, as Ronald Reagan called it. And the Monroe Doctrine is about having a buffer of friendly regimes around the United States, not allowing the enemy to get close to our shores. Today, all of this is a combination of what Ronnie proposed and what Monroe proposed. Today, it's called the Don Roe Doctrine, and maybe Donald himself called it that. Who knows?
Ronald Reagan. The Don Roe Doctrine states that the president and his team are working behind the scenes to overthrow the communist regime in Cuba by the end of the year. Sources report that the administration is actively looking for insiders in the Cuban government who are willing to make a deal. The White House believes that the time has come. Cuba's economy is on the verge of collapse. There are shortages of food and fuel, rolling blackouts, and the government is more fragile than ever. This happened after the United States arrested the top ally of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. I'll return to my earlier point. I think the president has developed a taste for global maneuvering.
Add Cuba to that list. Naturally, the regime is in shock. Naturally, they send Cubans out into the streets who dream that the United States will free them from the bloody killers. And of course, they give them signs to hold and force them to shout, "Death to America, death to Trump, death to Rubio, and whoever else." Like in Iran, they also shout, just in their own language.
People were clearly affected. Mr. Donald Trump from the United States wants to seize power and become the world's leader, you see. The Cuban people are present again, and these shots say it all. Here we see confirmation of the revolutionary process. We keep alive the ideas of our commander-in-chief, who was the initiator and driving force of socialism throughout Latin America.
"Comrades," said Trump, "get out of Cuba while you can. Otherwise it will be, well, really bad. It will be really bad. Anyway, we won't let you continue to be a sore at our side. Leave on your own, because if we come and Rubio becomes your president, well, he really doesn't like you." There's a reason for that, editor.
Important news is coming in at this hour. United States President Donald Trump has threatened another Caribbean country. He has issued another warning to Cuba. In his Truth Social account, Trump stated, and I quote him, "No more oil or money will go to Cuba. I strongly urge them to make a deal before it's too late." He also said Venezuela now has the United States to protect them. Earlier, United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has Cuban roots, also intensified attacks on the Cuban government, emphasizing that the country is in a difficult situation. And United States President Trump also sparked a surge of curiosity on social media after sharing a post claiming that American Senator and Secretary of State Marco Rubio would become the president of Cuba.
Marco will not become the president of Cuba. Maybe just enjoy being the president of Cuba for a couple of hours. But it seems that clearing the belt of the security zone around the United States is going according to a prearranged plan. We got, as I already said, part of Greenland. We will take 2 provinces from Canada. We took Venezuela. We will take Cuba. We'll explain to Nicaragua that it's better to build a happy present than to be friends with distant Russia and the equally distant Celestial Empire. So, on the foreign front, what Trump planned is happening. But there are 2 domestic tasks: to raise the standard of living for the population and to hold high-profile trials against the disgusting thieves from the Democratic Party. Both are being done now, being prepared now by Trump's team, and soon we will see the results of economic changes and then the criticism of criminal revelations. Well, practically all the leaders of the Democratic Party, from Clinton, Obama, the Bidens, to governors, senators, and members of Congress, are mired, simply mired in corruption. And anti-American hatred, anti-American, I didn't want to say activity because that's a term defined in the criminal code, anti-American hatred that drives them to do completely illogical and nightmarish things. Well, that's all, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. And don't forget to ring the bells and subscribe. Most importantly, almost no one else online is discussing what we're talking about. Russian speakers, at least those who understand English, of course, can see all this if they search well. But in the Russian-speaking internet, this is almost non-existent. That's why I would be very grateful if you could share all this with your friends. It's really important to understand and know all of this. Thank you, goodbye, and see you next time.